this meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Public comment? Okay, no public comment. I will move on to approval of minutes. I move to approve the minutes of the Monday, August 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just, one relatively simple clarification, but item 8, page 2, the budget report, it says these were distributed prior to the meeting and there was no discussion. I would prefer that reads, there was no concerns raised by selectmen, which I think is a little bit, the way it's presented, it sounds like we didn't do anything. I think we
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I move to approve the minutes of the Monday, August 22nd, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Yeah, I have a clarification, I think. On page, I don't know what page it is. It's like page 4, new business. First paragraph, just a typo, but Gorski's misspelled.
Oh, am I why?
Second paragraph, second sentence, it says Selectman Anino believes there is a potential agreement. I don't think that's quite what I said, so I would like to rephrase that. The spirit of what I was trying to say is that there could be some kind of an agreement that was part of the approval of that development. So what I suggest that sentence be changed to is, Selectman Anino suggested there might be an agreement for the development and Beechwood would not have the authority to change it.
Let me see, section. Oh, ordinance update, okay.
I didn't, maybe I just didn't read this carefully enough.
I'm still looking for
The sentence, Anino recommended that if the Board of Selectmen is now the acting water pollution authority, the language that First Selectman Gorski suggested doesn't unilaterally allow the Director of Health, but the position should make the recommendations to the Water Pollution Authority, which is the Board of Selectmen, so there is clear direction. Well, that sentence is,
It doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't make any sense.
I couldn't understand it when
Yeah.
I read it. I thought maybe because I was reading it on my computer screen, but even on paper. What was intended?
I think we could just strike the sentence. I'm not sure what was,
that quote there.
the sentence that starts, Anino recommends that if the Board of Selectmen is now the acting
Okay.
water pollution authority, the language that the First Selectman,
Oh, okay.
Suggested doesn't unilaterally allow.
the Director of Health, I don't know what's trying to be said there.
Sorry, I didn't do
Must have been
these.
riveting at the time.
I didn't do these, so I don't know.
We did have Jamie doing these and she was,
Jamie, not Jamie, right?
Jamie,
A different Jamie.
Jamie Scasia, she was, how do you pronounce her last name?
I think Sasha.
Sasha. But, no, I mean, at this point, we were talking about the pump out frequency, we were talking about the role of the selectmen, and clearly, the Board of Selectmen are the current acting water pollution control authority based on the information that I sent to you.
I think if we strike the sentence, cause it doesn't, you know, and then the next two sentences sort of capture, I think, the essence of things, which was one, the issue of the Charter Revision Commission seeking to dissolve the Water Pollution Authority, and then the last sentence that I expressed concern with managing sewer systems and loosening up that requirement. I think that's the essence of the.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if there is an issue at Beechwood or at any location that requires the Board of Selectmen and the Public Health Authority, in this case CRAD, to act because of a sewer issue, we have that authority to move forward.
I don't know if the charter revision can, I think there may be a statute of public health that requires water pollution control authority. I don't think the charter revision committee can wipe that off the charter.
No, they can't,
Okay, so that's probably
so that's something so Kathy, just so you're aware, we can't, Water Pollution Control Authority has to remain on the charter. I think there was some discussion about that. But right now, it's the Board of Selectmen that are acting as the Water Pollution Control Authority in, I guess the word that I would say, in concert with our public health agency.
Well, I would say that we haven't done anything, because it hasn't come up before us before now, so it seems like we're not really acting. We have the ability to act, right?
Right.
We're granted that authority. I don't know if we're missing something we should be doing, maybe. Probably worth looking at.
Okay. All those in favor?
I had one other. Last page, I just suggest, cause I didn't remember. First Selectman Gorski followed up regarding deed restrictions from the last meeting.
Yeah, so that was.
Deed restrictions for what?
Those.
For that was
For the affordable housing?
Affordable
Yes,
housing.
low income.
I wasn't at
Could
this
we
meeting.
just say that then, Gorski followed up regarding deed restrictions for affordable housing
Yep.
from the last meeting?
Yeah.
Just so that the minutes will stand alone.
No, that's fine. All those in favor of the minutes as amended, say aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay. Refunds and abatements.
We skipped the July 11th minutes, did we, or no?
I think the special meeting, I thought we
approved
them at the
those.
last meeting.
They're just included in here? Okay,
Okay.
okay,
We did approve those.
okay.
I move to approve the following refunds and abatements, all for overpayment, and allow them to move, allow them to follow their normal course. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, just a couple of items that Michelle brought to my attention. Dick Bauer, this was an overpayment of his, I mean, it's a big number, so that was an overpayment when he was closing on his property, so that got sent back. And then the other one was Alyssa DeCosta, $476, that was paid online twice. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Appointments. So, I move to appoint Claudette Lagasse, a Democrat, to the Economic Recovery Committee for a term ending December 31st, 2022. Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright, I move to appoint Michael G. Reimers, Democrat, to the Traffic Safety Committee for a term ending I guess is it December 31st, yes.
Reappoint them.
We
for next
reappoint,
year.
December 31st, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
it.
Aye.
I move to appoint Catherine E. Murphy, Democrat, to the Traffic Safety Committee for a term ending December 31st, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in
Aye.
favor say aye. Aye. I move to appoint Richard Plennis, Democrat, to the Traffic Safety Committee for a term ending December 31st, 2022.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I do want to discuss it for a minute. how many are we, putting on the board altogether? We have no one serving on it right now, is that correct?
We're putting on a total, good question. I thought we were putting on a total of 8, no, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, 5.
Who's the 5th one?
We have an open slot after this.
Yeah, what bothers me about this is that they're all Ds and Us, there's no Rs.
Well, there will be an R.
And I'd like to hold the other 2 until we have Rs, cause they may want additional slots, but I'd like to hold it.
Well, at this point, we have looked at, minority representation. So even if I appoint Richard, I'm also appointing a U, and then there's one more slot that the Rs can fill.
I think I'm kind of partial to holding and getting a report on that as well.
All right, then I withdraw my motion.
For the 5th and, the 4th and 5th candidates?
Well, we would be 4th, 5th, yes, well,
So
let's see.
you're not gonna move the last one?
We have,
The last 2 that are on this.
and I have Richard Plennis, I had Phil Stoll as a U, and then I have an open space.
I'm confused.
Do we put,
Remember our
I know getting volunteers has always been, a challenge in this town. I remember 15 years ago writing, like, notes in the crier trying to get volunteers for anything. But we don't put notes in anything specifically saying we have openings for people, do we?
Let me
specifically?
tell you this, for the traffic safety committee, I have never received so many people,
It's so true.
calling, indicating that they want to participate. It has been, we're probably fielding 3 to 5 calls a week on traffic safety. And most of it is not speeding, most of it is distracted driving, honestly, when you talk to the fire department. But the point is, people are anxious and they wanna be on these committees.
So, do you have a list of those names for us to look at and maybe talk about?
Well, I mean, I do know Richard has been anxious in wanting to participate. Phil Stoll has been anxious in wanting to participate. We have a number of other people, and at this point, we're still waiting for an hour to make sure we balance out minority representation. So
Have you
it's,
kept a list of the other people that's called
I
in?
have a complete list.
Is that something you'd be comfortable sharing?
I can share.
Yeah.
And I've also talked to people who offered their advice.
We get a lot of that, don't we?
And they're willing to
roll up their sleeves.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm willing to offer that up, but, you know, I wanna make sure that this committee, it's a challenging committee, because we all know that going to the DOT and saying, hey, can I put this sign up here? Or can I alter traffic flow here? That's not an easy fix. We have a lot of state road here that we can't control. And most of our accidents occur on state road. But here's an opportunity for the voice of the people to speak.
I'm still a little bit confused. We're at 6 members of this committee.
5, we have an ex officio, which is, the resident state trooper.
So I thought I had read in the minutes, and maybe it was a different committee, so.
Well, we've got,
clarify. We were ex officio, resident state trooper. I thought we were gonna have the road foreman on this committee.
Well, he could be as a Republican, but do we need him on there?
Not in,
I thought that,
in his capacity
but I
as
thought that's what
foreman.
we had said we were going to do.
Not as a Republican per se, but as
As the
his
road
as the
foreman.
road foreman. Yeah.
You know, you're right, he was on it as, at the previous committee. But if we don't have the challenge we run into now is that if we don't put him on, well, if we put him on this, that fills that Republican void.
No, it doesn't, no, not if we put him in the capacity of his job.
Well, I'm not sure that's how we charged it.
Is he ex officio or regular?
He was not, he was not ex officio in the last one.
But we can always add that, but, you know, what, and I don't know, are any of these members of the fire department? I don't recognize any of the names of
That
these members.
was the third one, we recommended,
Yeah, a member from the fire department. And I bet you we can find somebody who's a Republican on the fire department, right? So it feels like that's where we're kind of weak, is, cause they'll have a whole different perspective to add.
I don't know that we're weak, I'm just concerned that we said we're gonna do one thing, and this appears to map out in a different direction. Now, I will also say, there's nothing like people who are volunteers and are passionate about what they're doing.
Correct.
And so I have no reservations about that at all. I just wanna make sure that if we're gonna change, that we do it formally, because we're on record saying this is what the makeup is going to be.
Well, let me go back to those, I don't know what meeting was it that way?
On the 8th, you said you were going to reinstate the thing, so I don't know what the next meeting, the one with Jamie's one, let's see what happened there.
I just read it tonight, or if I.
Yeah, I read it on the 8th, it just didn't have the details, so let's see. One from, the 26th.
I don't see it there.
Either.
I read it recently.
I remember seeing.
The
I
traffic
remember
safety
seeing roll
committee
call.
maybe had been prior to that?
I can search it.
I could swear I just read it tonight.
I don't see it. Was it August 8th? Gorski noted 11 accidents in the past 30 days and has received numerous communications from residents requesting more attention be paid to road safety in town. She suggested the town reinstate the traffic safety committee. Gorski moved to charge a traffic safety committee to review safety issues and make recommendations to the BoS to make our roads safer. The traffic safety committee will be comprised of 5 members and the resident state trooper as an ex officio. It does not state that Walt.
It was suggested that the road foreman and a member of the Killingworth
there we
Volunteer
go.
Fire Company be included.
That's
Okay.
fine.
That's the part I did
What
not-
date are you on?
I didn't turn the
What
page.
date is that? What date?
The August 8th minutes, page 3 at the top.
All right, so let's go back and get clarification from,
Do you wanna withdraw the appointments altogether? I would feel uncomfortable, if we're gonna revisit this, I think it's in fairness to the people that have volunteered, I think that we ought to
Now that-
withdraw this altogether.
all right, let's withdraw all,
I agree.
okay. And get
So
clar-
strike the motion, strike the
all the
vote.
motions.
All right,
And make, you know, when you think about it, if we wanna get somebody from the KBFC and the road foreman. All right, I'm gonna move on. You good with that? Yep. All right, veterans representative. So, Richard Mason, a Killingworth resident and commander of the old line VFW post 1467, has volunteered to take on the role Mercedes is currently our appointed veterans representative, but she has not taken the training nor has the bandwidth to support it. She has tendered her resignation, and he is prepared to take the required training, and I plan to appoint him.
Who is this? I'm sorry.
Richard Mason, he is a Killingworth resident, Vietnam vet, and I think he'd be a great addition to do this, because Mercedes doesn't have that background. So, I move to appoint Richard Mason, to be our, veterans representative.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Department reports.
Hello everyone, Kathy Zandy, Board of Education from RSD 17. So it was a busy summer. So the district, superintendent reports the district is back to normal operations post-COVID, or I should say pre-COVID, everything back to how it was pre-COVID. So we're happy about that. Learning can get back to normal, classroom, sports, all of it, back to normal. We are finished a number of projects over the summer. We had some landscaping, we had some pavement at BES. We had new flooring at the high school. We currently have a couple of air conditioning units that are out at the high school, so we're looking at fixing those. This isn't so applicable to Killingworth residents, but the East Haddam Swing Bridge is gonna be under construction starting March 2023, which really affects our school buses for the kids on the other side of the bridge. Haddam Neck, those kids already have a significant bus ride to school. So they're working with the DOT to figure out the bridge will actually be closed at certain times and one lane at certain times, and so I won't bore you guys with the details, but just to know our friends up north are really they're gonna be struggling with this in the school year.
Are they using the Aragoni Bridge? Is that the plan?
Yep, they're gonna go up the Aragoni Bridge, and then the idea when this bridge is closed is to collect students at a common location. So parents will bring students to a certain area, and then the bus will pick them up from there, instead of the bus going to every single house in Haddam Neck at the moment. So there's
better off having a ferry.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking, let's get the ferry going. But it's March through next year, and so we're keeping close tabs with the Transportation Board and the DOT to just, see what we can do. And of course, the families in Haddam Neck are getting all the updates, as
Probably
they
before
come.
you do.
Oh, absolutely, I hope so. I
How
certainly
many
hope so.
students do we have over there, roughly?
It's about 25,
Okay.
20, do I have that on here? That's a good question.
You should probably talk with Fisher's Island folks to see how they go.
Yeah, we're gonna do, I don't have the number here, but it's I'm gonna see about 25 or 30 kids on the other side, so not insignificant.
Mm.
Yeah, more than a small bus full. Yeah.
What's the age groups?
All ages, yeah,
Oh,
all
yeah,
ages.
okay.
So 3 times, right, through
Middle
Richmond
school
bus.
on into
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not even like they're going over to Haddam now, they're coming all the way up to Bird Hill or.
yeah,
Baldwin,
so,
so-
yeah, so that's some
There's some
headaches.
unhappy parents.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's difficult, yeah. Over the summer, we've also been busy. We filled over 30 positions, teaching and staff positions. We filled them all, despite what you've heard in the news about districts having trouble filling positions. Everybody's ready, including some of the positions we spoke about last fall in the budget, or last spring in the budget. We have a new director of fiscal operations, new assistant superintendent, new assistant principal in the middle school, to name a few. Food services, we actually got a grant. We received a supply chain assistance fund of $36,000. That allows us to have free lunch for the first 3 months of school, which is great. So we've had free lunch and sometimes breakfast through COVID, and we're able to extend that with this grant, so that's great news. And then finally, a few things. So our strategic planning continues. I think we've spoken about that before. The board unanimously approved the superintendent's amended contract, so we basically extended it another year. So he has a kind of a rolling 3-year contract. And finally, I'm gonna say again, all of our strategic plan, district core values, and district vision are on our rdsd17.org website, along with all sorts of other information, if anyone's
Is
interested.
there any chance of bringing the late after school, the sports bus back? Is that gone for good? It sort of ended right around the time of COVID.
It was a budget, it ended before COVID, it was a budget decision. We did the math on the number of students that ride that bus, and it was really low, it was like 20 students or something for the price, it was actually a high price tag for the number of students, yeah. And we did end up extending the middle school pickup time, by, I think, a half an hour, so that parents are able to come to the middle school to do a pickup. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I
But
did
that was
hear
just-
from,
just money.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I've heard from a couple people.
Yeah.
I did hear from Jeff Libby, he wants to become a Killingworth Lion.
Great. Can you be a Lion if you're not live in town?
Apparently he can.
Hillary does not live in town.
And I'm gonna be
Oh.
sponsoring him
I didn't know
as
that.
his,
Great.
as he moves forward, so.
Excellent, excellent.
It all connects the community.
It does, and he's very excited to be here. I don't know if you've spoken to him about his move, but during his review and contract discussions at the open board, he's just delighted to be here. He hopes to retire from here.
Remind me tomorrow, I gotta make an appointment with him, but yes, he wants to be a Lion.
Yeah, great,
So good stuff.
excellent.
On the building department, we did hire Sean Hussey as a part-time building inspector to provide daytime, inspections, and he just started last week. He is, shadowing with Richard, and the goal ultimately is to get Sean all the experience he needs. He's gonna be taking his testing, and he will become our official building inspector within the next 6 months. So, we're working through that, and Richard, I thank you for all you're doing in the meantime to make that happen. We are making a dent in the number of open permits. We're doing a good job there. Robin is doing an excellent job of trying to keep these guys focused, and everything is actually running pretty well in the building department. Any other questions? Okay. Gina? I saw her running around.
There we go.
She escaped. Does anyone have any questions about the budget?
I don't.
I mean, it's humming along. The auditor, here she is. The auditors have started this week. Gina, do you wanna give any, budgetary reports?
Too early in the year to talk about this year, really. But if you have any questions, just let me know. And yes, the new auditors are coming in. They'll be here tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, new business.
That's efficient.
The sand bid. I move to approve the legal notice to issue the sand bid. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. The Killingworth Historical Society Parmelee Lease. So this was a draft, and Dave has sent an updated draft, and now even an updated draft, that I've sent to Ken Wodach for review. Dave's recommendation was to keep the format similar to previous leases and add a term. In this case, we're asking for 99 years for the lease on the Historical Society barn, with a renewal for 50 years thereafter. And then also have a nominal price. I would expect, we've already gotten some feedback from Dave again today. I would expect that it should be, the lease would be expected to be ready for our approval at our next meeting. So,
Okay.
So we're moving forward on that.
Can I ask you a question
Mhm.
about this? So, this is the new barn that's being built, is that
Correct.
So I understand they're gonna be storing, you know, I don't know, all kinds of equipment and artifacts. Is there any chance there's gonna be any fuel stored in that building? Are there any
I have no
engines,
idea.
anything that would have oil or gas or anything like that in it?
I would not think so. That would be a great question for Ken. And actually, I'd like to invite Ken at our next meeting. If we're going to have this discussion about the lease, I'd invite Ken to join us, so you could ask him that. I'm sure you're wondering about liability and insurance.
Kind of going in that direction. I think because, and the reason I'm a little concerned about it is because it's a 99-year lease, so we don't leave it open to revisit it if we have concerns.
Yeah.
Right? And so in having kind of an open lease where we don't check in, I almost feel like there should be some kind of a clause that allows us to go and, to walk through, or for liability issues to walk through. And part of my concern, it's not so much the Historical Society of volunteers that are in and out of there. There's safety concerns, kids break in. We have a lot of guests on the Parmelee land.
Mhm.
It's not patrolled. And so we've had thefts of copper and there's just all that kind of thing. So I'm kind of interested in how that's gonna be covered, and just the town's liability for the artifacts as well. Something happens. It might be worth not
Okay.
having an open lease for 90, or
Did-
some kind of qualifier anyway.
Did you read through the language, I don't know when it was sent to us.
This morning, the one at
is-
9,
Yeah.
I didn't get through it. Literally, I was working all day. I
There
didn't-
was some language.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah,
mean,
I saw it, but I was looking at it, my phone around, I couldn't, it was small.
It took me a while to get my mind wrapped around it, but the way you need to think about this is, you're thinking like that's an asset of the town, which in the grand scheme of things, it is. But it's, the facility and the artifacts are actually owned by the Historical Society. And we need to protect the town
Right.
by having certain language in that lease. They need to carry their own insurance, they need to make sure that it's code compliant, those pieces sort of fall to them, if that makes sense.
It does. So the reason, having worked with properties on state parks, and for state properties that have, things like this, leases on them, the town, like the state in that instance, is sort of the deep pockets behind it.
Right.
So let's say 3 or 4 kids, who no longer have other places to go to, find a way into the back of it, and that's where they decide to party on a snowy night. And something falls and somebody gets hurt. The Historical Society will have whatever their insurance is, but they'll come after the town.
Mhm.
And it may, that's worst case scenario, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about, and if there's fuel and something lights up and it creates a bigger issue. So the only, and there may be more language for that, but I just wanna make sure that it's really tight and it allows us, as a town, to revisit it, just to see if we need to up any kind of insurance, or we need to put some
Mhm.
kind of a plan on it as a town.
So
I think
Dave,
I like the idea of the lease. I'm not against the lease at all. I'm 100% behind this barn. I think we need it for the Historical Society. I think it's fabulous that the town has come together to build it and site it here. This is a perfect location for it. I'm 100% for it. I think you need to leave something open so that we can go back in if we need to, as time changes and things evolve and people move on.
So Dave even provided an additional update today, because we did give him the specifics of, he wanted a diagram of where everything was.
Okay.
We gave him that, and we asked him to do the 99-year with a 50-year renewal option. And he came back with some additional language, and I'll forward that. This was just late this afternoon.
Okay.
So I'll forward that to you, and if you have these concerns, by all means, reach out to him.
Can I reach out to him directly?
Correct.
I'll let you guys know if I'm gonna do that. I may not, once I see what he writes.
I mean, you
but-
could look at it and reach out to him, CC us, and, I can't respond because that becomes an illegal meeting, but at least you can say to him, this is my concern.
Do we have any kind of security over there at all? Security systems, anything?
That we do, I don't think we do.
Tim Gannon has a camera
There's
that he
cameras.
watches from
Is
his
there a
house.
ring?
He watches it from his house.
Yeah, there's
There are-
several
If you
cameras.
call that, you know, if he happens to be
Yeah.
home
I
and
remember a
sees
dog
something.
bite video we saw, so that's how I remember.
Of all of the things, as I was reviewing whatever the last iteration I saw was, it was the need for some kind of security system on that building. You know, whether it's Tim watching over it or something, it just sort of struck me like, you know, and I wouldn't wanna put the financial burden on the Historical Society if it is, but it just seemed to me like that would be belt and suspenders.
Yeah.
And it would speak to many of the things that you talked about.
Eileen and Richard, are you aware of any?
There's cameras on.
The only other thing I would probably recommend over there is have a fire marshal do an annual visit like he does on all our other commercial properties. Just to verify what's going on inside the building at any given time and make it part of his annual.
I would hope.
Because it does fall under commercial at this point.
Do they do that with all of our town buildings? They should be
They're
doing that with
supposed to.
all of our town
All
buildings.
town, everything's supposed to have an annual
So that should be
inspection.
included in that, right? Wouldn't
I
that be
would,
included?
I would include it.
Yeah. So it needs to be subject to town and fire marshal, that would be the language in fire
Yeah,
marshal
review.
inspections, yeah.
But more to come. I hope to have.
He'll, part of that, he will make sure all the safety lighting and all of the exit lighting and all of that's
Trip hazards, that kind of
tested
thing,
annually.
I would suggest, since this was raised, and since you asked the question, and rather than focus this specifically on the barn for the
Right.
Historical Society.
All of
Yeah. All the
we-
buildings, yeah.
That we talk to the fire marshal about annual inspections of municipal facilities, and just be sure that we've got a plan that this is included in, to do those.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Even this building.
Sure.
I mean,
And the one on the
monthly, they're
circle
supposed to go through
and
and
the-
check all your lights. Somebody's supposed to go through and check off and signal all the emergency lighting. And that's a big burden on the fire marshal, but we have an outside company down in Clinton that comes through once a month, goes through all the buildings.
I don't know if the ones that do the fire extinguishers also do the exits.
Yeah, they
I think
should.
they do.
Yeah.
We do have someone do that.
And they do all the buildings or just this one?
I know they do the circle, I know they do here, I think they do everything. I know they do the EOC, they check, there's tags on each fire extinguisher, and I think they check the lights, but I'm not sure about the exits.
In that little animal building down there, what do we call that?
Yep.
No, I think that's worthy, and we should reach out to the fire marshal and make sure that's part of his.
Well, does that also include the
That's
Sugar
done by-
Shack
That's
and-
done by a private company, not the fire marshal.
which one?
Gina would know.
What do you know, what facility we're talking about?
Oh, the fire extinguishers in
Oh.
all these campus buildings are done by
Isn't
by some company, I forget their name.
Right. I'm gonna move on to, next agenda item, town meeting. I moved to add a new agenda item, approval of the revised Town of Killingworth application for the American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funding.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those say aye.
Aye.
So we, based on your feedback, Lou,
Yep.
we went back and we've updated this application form.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've addressed all of your concerns.
Yep. And to be fair, there weren't a lot of concerns.
No,
I mean, I didn't want it to be a checklist, it really was an application.
correct.
And I wanted to make sure that there was enough in there that it captured the history of what we did and why in the context of what we could spend on. It was more or less there, so there was just a few
Yeah.
formalities and putting it on letterhead.
So it looks great. So, and actually I think Gina's words go, wow, that looks pretty. So, I move to approve the revised Town of Killingworth application for American Rescue Act ARPA funding. All those in favor, or second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That said, you're looking at the 3 ARPA fund applications that are pending. I went back, and I have put forward, the one thing that I got some feedback earlier today. On the form, I said, reviewed and recommended by the ERC on May 4th, review and recommended by ERC on date and signature, review and recommended by BoS, date and signature, and review and recommended by BOF. The only approval I think that's required is town meeting. Is that your assumption as well? So, there was some concern that at any point in time, the recommendation could be disapproved. And I'm not sure we captured the essence of that in this form.
I'm not sure I'm following. If it's not approved, isn't it essentially disapproved?
Well, it's reviewed and recommended, not approved. So the only approval, I guess, so
the
for
town meeting.
example, if the BOF decides not to recommend it,
Yeah.
can it still go to town meeting for approval?
I don't think so, based
I
on,
would
we
say
voted
no.
on that and said that we required the Board of Finance approval, didn't we?
Well,
Like a few
again,
minutes ago?
keep in mind the term approval. We put this as reviewed and recommended.
No, I meant here, I meant in our regular Board of Selectmen meeting, I think when we were talking about the process, oh man, a couple months ago, there
You know,
was
I'm gonna have to go back and look
lively
at,
discussion about whether or not
the
the Board of
process.
Finance should review it or not review it, and I think we wanted to follow the normal expenditure where, the same way we follow our regular expenditures, where the Board of Selectmen votes on it and sends it on to the Board of Finance, and Board of Finance approves, and then it goes to the town meeting. That's what it was a very lively discussion, because I think you wanted to not go to Board of Finance, and you wanted to go to Board of Finance, and then we had a discussion.
I think when Nancy had a spending threshold that we
Right.
could,
Right.
we suggested that we stay.
Just like we do with everything else, where
Yeah.
we kind of run it the same way we run all the other things. It's just instead of coming through the regular budget process, it's coming up through the ERC process.
And I'll go back and take a look at that. I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's just, you know, that's how we put these forms together. I think the form itself stands alone.
Mhm.
It captures the essence of what we're looking to
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
It has all of the dates required to document what what is being recommended and what is transpiring. So therefore, let's move on to the call for the town meeting. I move to approve the call to town meeting pending BOF approval of over-expended and under-expended lines, closeout of capital accounts, the funding source to hire a consultant to review public works, and the ARPA applications. Do I have a second?
Second.
From a discussion standpoint, I did speak with Rob Rimmer today, and all of these items are on the agenda for the Board of Finance meeting. So he is prepared to address this. We're trying to get this done proactively, so Elizabeth can move forward with placing the legal notice. If we don't do this evening, we'd have to move to reenact the Fair Rent Commission ordinance because of a timing standpoint.
Say that again? If we don't,
The clock on that item will have to start again, and we have to start over. It has, you approved it on the 22nd of August. So you had 30 days to get it to town meeting. So that would be September 21st. Yeah.
And so what have we not acted on?
the thing about the toolkit.
Huh?
Oh, no, the Fair Rent Commission.
I thought all of these things that we had.
You're talking about the Fair Rent Commission.
Board of Finance hasn't done it yet.
Oh,
They
I
haven't
heard
No,
us.
Yeah.
no, Board of Finance.
Oh,
Okay, so it's
okay.
just Board
Board
of
of
Finance that
Finance.
hasn't acted on this.
So I'm
Okay.
just saying, I'm moving to move forward with this legal call pending approval tomorrow night by the Board of Finance.
I didn't hear the board, by the Board of
Right,
Finance.
so I wanna send it to
Okay.
the paper on Wednesday morning, first thing, like 9 o'clock.
So
So-
if they don't
But
approve it.
can we do that, subject to an approval of another board? I didn't think we could.
we're on new territory here, so we're trying to move this.
I don't see why we couldn't issue the call pending.
Here's the deal, if they disapprove it, or they don't move forward on any of these, then we have a special meeting.
I guess I'm thinking of an approval contingent on something else. All we're doing is issuing a call, right?
Correct.
Call to the meeting. I'm all
So,
right with that.
so if they don't,
I'm
so let me just
I would
ask for
pull it
clarity.
off the call.
You would pull
Yeah.
it off the call, so
Yeah.
you would, it wouldn't have already been in the paper, we'll know tomorrow night.
Correct.
Right.
And then you'll pull it off and we just have to have a special meeting saying pull it off.
Right,
Correct.
there's 8 items on here and I don't pull off any ones that don't get their blessing.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be creative here. We are trying to stack up more items in a town meeting than just having these one-offs. But, you know, that comes with some new challenges too. So,
So it's overs and unders.
yeah, we have overs and unders, closeouts. Well, the Fair Rent Commission is, we don't need anything from the Board of Finance on that one. The $40,000.
Oh, they may identify a funding source for that,
Yeah,
For what?
for the 40,000, what line it comes from, how it's paid. Send it to them, whether their blessing on that.
yeah,
Whether it comes from the fund.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 I wasn't done discussing, cause I wanted to, on this thing, you have the Fair Rent Commission ordinance.
Yes.
Do you have the ordinance printed out there? I
We
didn't see
sent
the
it in the
ordinance.
packet, I
Yeah,
sent
we-
it, I thought.
I
Maybe
didn't
it's
see
not
the
in there. I can give that a copy, maybe you approved it already.
Yeah, we approved that when you were not here.
You want it now?
It may be, let's go back to the August 22nd meeting minutes. Well, it's in the meeting minutes, but the meeting materials are not published.
We just said approved. And so- When you guys discussed this, did you have any discussion about the cost to the town for the Fair Rent Commission?
The cost of the town was considered negligible at the time.
I
You
mean,
know,
with respect to setting it up, but with, in terms of expected litigation and coverage
we
and
did not discuss
insurance.
that.
Did you go with exactly the Fair Rent, the model ordinance?
Correct.
Thank you.
Based
Thank
on
you.
review by Dave Tice.
So just realize that with this, commission, because you've set it up that there's an appeal here, I'm sure the attorney, conveyed this to you. If they didn't, I'm not giving legal counsel here, I'm just making an observation as a member of the board. But, that if a person's aggrieved by an order of the commission, they'll sue the commission, and the town will be required to provide defense of the town and the commission, and that'll be considerable. And I haven't looked at the cost with respect to appeals, but we might be required to pay for, if we lose as a town, we might be required to pay their, person filing the appeal, we might be required to pay their legal fees too. Has anybody looked at that?
No.
Just put it out there, this could be a really expensive undertaking for an entity where it's gonna be all volunteers and we don't have any experts on this board. Getting into a territory we're not familiar with. I understand the concerns with Beechwood, and and I understand this is what, I know that Representative Gupil has been really a proponent of this as well, and it may be the best thing that we can do for the folks at Beechwood, but there's a significant chance that we're gonna be in lawsuits on this, and it's a potential big expense to the town that we should have our eyes wide open to going into for something that none of us are experts in. And we're dealing with national corporations that are in, lawsuits around the country with entities, so just putting that out there.
It's fine, I mean, we've already approved it, it's going to town meeting.
Okay.
So if you have concerns, it's certainly town meeting where you can make sure people are aware of it.
Yeah. I'm just putting it on record, because I wasn't here when you guys talked about it.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
So all those in favor of approving the legal, all those in favor of approving the call to town meeting pending BoS approval, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Right. Moving on, use of ARPA funds for town hall projects. So Elizabeth requested John Wills to provide an estimate of cost to paint the town barn, just for kicks and giggles. And John also had a carpenter look at the barn to estimate the cost for some of the repairs. The total came to about $15,000 to put some paint on the barn and to shore up the wood. My suggestion is that we put this work out to RFP, and then with the return on that, we work with the Economic Recovery Committee to request ARPA funds to cover the cost. Now, there's a couple of other suggestions I have too. We could also execute an RFP for hybrid meeting solutions. So in the example here, we have Eric Nunez recording our meeting, but if we had a hybrid meeting solution, that would be done automatically. And we could also execute an RFP for the budgeting and permitting software that Gina's been anxious to look into, and we've talked about OpenGov in the past. Once we have these RFPs, we have a sense of what this would cost us. Now, whether or not we go to the Economic Recovery Committee, or whether or not we add this into next year's budget cycle, it makes sense to me to start executing these RFPs so we have a sense of how much this would cost us. Any discussion? I mean, this is not a
So
motion.
I'm a little uncomfortable kind of lumping all of those things together because they all kind of have their own purposes
Yeah.
and rationale. I will say, the physical assets of the town need to be maintained. And we have an obligation as the selectmen, or the board of selectmen, to make sure that that's happening. So regardless of how we decide to pay for the maintenance of that building, something should be done.
Yeah.
It should have been done a long time ago. So
Yeah.
I do like the idea of an RFP. I think, and I commend Elizabeth for reaching out, so at least gives us a ballpark sense of where we are. But if an RFP produces better pricing, fine.
And he was aware that it
Yeah.
was gonna go out to bid and everything.
But
It was just
I couldn't emphasize more strongly that we need to maintain these assets.
Yeah,
It's
and
not free money.
Right. Well, and the other two aspects, whether or not we decide to put monies into next year's budget and then let the Economic Recovery Committee come back and say we're gonna pay for those, that's another story.
Mhm.
But I thought the $15,000 for the barn would be money well spent, at least to get it shored up. And we may have to consider the roof here.
The roof is already in next year's budget.
Of what, this?
This one.
No.
So Eileen, be careful.
The buckets
There
were
may
this.
be-
The
there may be a
buckets were this.
I know, you're in the worst spot.
Yeah, that one's looking a little bubbled, but, okay, but, all right, we'll move forward with the RFP, at least for the barn.
Yeah.
But know that there's other things that we're looking at for.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if there's some investigation that you wanna do in terms of those things, that, you know, that's fair game, that comes with the office, and then
Yeah.
we can decide if those are things we wanna pursue.
Okay, well, I'll do that.
I hope that wasn't a ceiling tile.
No.
Eric's phone.
All right, I'm moving on to the town office building. Thank you. I move to charge a town office building committee with the following. Recommend a design for the construction of a new town hall addition to replace the existing modulars. Project the cost of a new town hall addition and to provide general oversight to the future construction of the town hall addition. Do I have a second?
Could you read that again? I'm sorry.
I move to charge a town office building committee with the following. Recommend a design for the construction of a new town hall addition to replace the existing modulars. Project the cost of the new town hall addition and provide general oversight to the future construction of the town hall construction.
Can you just look at the
I'll
wording of it again? I'm
second
sorry,
it
can you-
for the sake of
Can you pass it over so I
discussion.
can just look at it?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. It was, should have folded it.
Where are we? Where are you, where were you, over here?
So I use the old language, so if it gives us an opportunity to tweak it, I'm okay with that.
The old language.
From, we had the town office building committee back in.
And that was the language that we used?
Correct.
Wow.
So was there, this all predated me, and I went back when I first started, Marcel sent me a bunch of the meeting minutes going back. This was, 6 months ago, a year ago now, looking at the town hall stuff. There was a vote at some point by the town, I think twice, right, on whether or not we should go forward with the building. What was, do you remember the wording on that? Did the town say no, not to go forward, or do we have to go to the town before we can charge a committee with recommending a design for construction? I'm not saying I don't wanna do this, cause I think something has to be done, I just wanna make sure that
Well,
we
I
do our
think you're
ducks
getting
in a
ahead of
row.
yourself.
Well, I don't know that we
think-
can create a committee and charge them to recommend a design. I mean, it goes back to the very beginning when we were talking about we need to have a committee to do something so that we can present something, I get that.
So, keep in mind that the Economic Recovery Committee, the $200,000 we allocated
Yeah.
in this year's budget to start working on that. It needs people to move that forward.
We just do that with the ERC money, I thought we did that with our regular budget, in our
No.
capital plan.
Well, the ERC voted to pay for that with economic recovery funds.
To supplement what we had done in our capital budget.
Right, so they're offsetting our capital
Okay.
budget with this.
Okay.
So I don't want to, I wanna make sure we move forward, setting up a committee and getting them in place to do what has to get done. Now, I think part of the language, and I have to go back, I should go back and look at our notes from the budget. It really was also to validate the cost
Right.
associated with, we set aside $2 million for this renovation.
We were really careful with the language when we talked about it to make sure we did it to respect the people that vote from before, but also to look forward so we could get our ducks in a row to get a committee together. We just don't remember what that language was. It didn't sound quite like that. It sound, but I can't. I know we were caught between a rock and a hard place because which do you do first, right?
Well, this was the language of the previous town office building committee. So I went back and I had the town clerk's office research, because this even predated what's on the website. In other words, this is like 2008 stuff. I'm glad I put this in notes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm reacting to. This language to me presumes, it presumes right up front that the solution to this is to replace the modulars and to put an addition on the town hall. And to me, that may not be the right solution. And it seems to me this committee needs to assess the municipal office needs of the town and then make recommendations based on, you know,
The needs of the town,
needs of
the
the town.
facility, the PFAS situation, is it more expensive to fix the water, or,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
cause that may make us move the building eventually.
Well, I don't know
Right.
about, I don't know about this building. It may make us move the fire hall more so than anything else. But, that said, you know, we can go back and reassess. I'm willing to.
I wanna be careful, cause we can get ourselves into this analysis paralysis.
That's what my
And-
concern was. So I went back and just rewrote the book.
So maybe, I would suggest this, that maybe we leave this as written, but instead move to charge the town building committee with revalidating the town office building space need requirements, and then make recommendations for a design to include the consideration of the future of the existing modulars, project the
Get all
cost
that?
of the town addition, and then provide general oversight.
not
of the
Eric
future.
got it.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, this was, I only
It's a
put
good
this.
start.
All I'm
it's a
looking
good
for is
start.
somebody to take a step back and reassess, are these needs still valid?
Right,
And then we
And
can
if so, what steps?
proceed on to.
What are our alternatives, right?
yeah.
Right.
And, yeah, and then throw some money at it, figure out what is it gonna cost, is it, you know, if the alternative at this point, cause now we're probably 5 years, 10 years down the road since the last assessment was started, right?
Sure.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
the costs are gonna be different on both ends, either replacing this, maintaining it, or
We're close to
replacing
10
it.
years from when this,
I think it's been more than that.
so, yeah.
But I mean, if we're putting a new roof on, you know,
But keep in mind that we need to put a new roof
Yeah.
on because it's gonna
Our
be another
buckets only
5
hold so
years
much
before.
water.
Yeah, exactly.
Either that or we triple the ceiling tile budget.
Just keep people off the roof, stop letting them put holes in it.
Well, you said that before. All those in favor of the charge for the town office building committee as amended?
Did you get the
I
amendment?
did it, I'll have to get it, I will get it off the tape.
wait, well, yeah, I'm not sure how
not
it was amended.
Right there. I started with revalidating the town office building space, building needs requirements.
I
To
don't think we
validate the
validated it,
needs
sounds-
assessment, of the.
Is there an urgency for us to
We can
move
table
this
this for
today?
tonight.
I'm suggesting that maybe we take this discussion and maybe rewrite that to include, you know, the spirit of what I'm suggesting, but basically revalidating the office needs. Now, you know, included in that is, you know, there was a pretty large outcry from the taxpayers, you know, that we don't need this. You know, and that needs to be considered in that revalidation, so, you know, and then there's a whole lot of history between when that was done and now, including our ability to do things electronically and, you know.
Yeah,
so
in 20
things
years,
have
we may not
changed.
even need a town hall. Can we get a copy of what you have there,
Mhm.
like before we leave tonight, so we can take a look at it and maybe
Yeah, absolutely. I
jot
can-
some things down?
I can also always send you my notes.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that way we can kind of toy with it, so we're not You know,
Yeah.
and you're not trying to build it
Yeah.
and then have to go through this again at the next meeting where we're throwing out ideas and.
So you notice I've watermarked it now.
So-
So, all right.
Okay, so we're tabling.
We'll table that. There's no old business to bring before the board. Selectmen's comments.
Yeah, I am still sort of struggling with this water pollution control authority piece of it, and I'm, you know, neither here nor there in terms of the authority. What I'm very sensitive to is an administrative process in place in this town that makes sure that every facility that has a subsurface sewage system is being tracked, and those are getting pumped, and you know, there's records of that. And I believe that that's happening.
Well, yeah, I will say that we have all these records.
I believe it's happening. What I feel uncomfortable with is that there isn't an oversight to that. And what I'm suggesting is that maybe, you know, if it's happening, Robin's doing that, which is right, I understand that takes place, and homeowners are getting notices but I think that there should be, you know, some process where that's reported out on, and not, you know, what I'm seeing here about, you know, there's 17 letters or whatever was in this month's report that went out. What I'm looking for is a complete report. There's whatever.
How many people have complied with the request?
There's all of these septic systems. These are the ones that are due this year, next. Here's where we are, and that either this board or it could be the first selectman. I want to make sure that there's a check and a balance, because that is, to me, is the foundation of our town is protecting the aquifers, and you know, it's dependent on those systems working and being maintained.
And similarly, we have to have, so the CRAD, together with the Board of Selectmen, if we feel that there is a challenge to our aquifer,
Yeah.
whether it be at Beechwood, whether it be at a
Yeah.
household, that we have the ability to reach out and request pump out sooner than the 5 years that's considered in our ordinance.
Yeah.
So that's something
But
we have to work through as well.
To me, that speaks to that oversight part of it
Mhm.
that I'm looking for, and I think that's a piece that when we dissolve that authority, while that wasn't what they exclusively did, it was a piece that they did. I think they predominantly were responsible for basically overseeing
The
sludge
lagoons.
lagoons.
Yes,
No,
that
but-
was years ago.
Well,
yeah.
no, you know, I served on that, and we did look at every month, we looked
I know you
at
did.
every record to see who was pumping out more often than 3 years, to see why, and we would look into it, we would task, who was the person we would give that to follow up with homes if we thought they were more often than they should be, or people weren't missing. So we looked at them, and I know that there was a fellow from DPH on the board, 2 people that were familiar with it, and they would look at the actual content to see what the makeup was, and they would issue, you know, there were cease and desist, there was work that had to be done on people's stuff. So what makes me a little nervous is that nobody's doing that now.
I
Because
agree.
we haven't seen it, it's probably not being done.
I
I'm very nervous,
think-
and Beechwood, they've had overflows, that could be going into the river behind.
I think the mechanics of it right now are churning, I think. I just don't think that we've got, you know, we sort of shifted to the Board of Selectmen, and I don't know that it was ever embraced here as to what our responsibility was, and I'm just not comfortable that it's, you know, it's certainly no fault to this board. I just think we have a responsibility to step in and up our game here.
No, and I think it's well spoken. I think you're right. We need to make sure it's clear.
Could I
Should we
ask?
invite them to the meeting?
That's what I was gonna suggest. Could I, and I don't know who they is, I think it's Robin, isn't it?
Robin can provide us a list of in
But
fact,
could
she gave me a list
provide us
specifically.
an overview of what the process is today, how the records are maintained, how
Oh,
the
yeah.
notices go out, and then I think we can then figure out how do we wanna bolt onto that to make sure that these, you know, higher level administrative responsibilities are addressed.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
Jamie, anything from your perspective?
Related to that.
The
no,
Selectmen's
any
comments.
No, bite my tongue.
Okay, from my perspective, the personnel manual has been, all the updates have been, performed on it, and I have forwarded it to the town labor attorney for review, so that is in progress. All performance reviews have been completed for, as per charter, and I'm working on updates to job descriptions as we've gone through this process.
Subject to our review, correct, in both
Correct.
levels?
Yes. The Emergency Management Director conducted an emergency preparedness review this week with members of Town Hall, KBFC, KAA, and CERT. I also spoke with DPH and DEEP on Friday. They do have the preliminary, all of the data from the testing that they did at Town Hall is being analyzed, and I should have a report from them by the time I meet next in October. So that work is ongoing.
Nancy, that's a plume study that was done?
No,
So-
they physically
They drilled wells, or
drilled
drilled,
holes here to find out, this is ground zero for PFAS. So they specifically came in here and drilled holes to figure out where is the potential source.
Yeah, but that's what I would know as a plume
a
study.
plume to see where it's going out.
Well, the
Well,
plume
a little
study.
different, cause they're not mapping yet, right?
Correct. They have not, so they have the plume study, so we've had the hydrogeologist
Yeah,
do the work, and they've outlined, there's that map that's
yeah,
over here.
that's all right.
But now with higher levels of PFAS noticed in the Kelseytown reservoir, they have to figure out, did that come from the south towards Kelseytown, or is that part of the investigation? So that's still an open question. And the good news is that, the bad news is that they found PFAS in the Kelseytown reservoir. The good news is as that water flows through the reservoir into Connecticut water, it's been eliminated by their filtration systems. But they still have to identify the source of where that PFAS came from. So this continues to be an ongoing investigation. To the point where we have Lori Matthews, who, she's at the head of DPH in the water board. She's very concerned for Killingworth.
It was on NPR, about
Correct.
a month ago.
Correct. So, but we will have the results from this investigation next month.
Okay.
I had
Motion to adjourn?
Wait, one moment, did you mention the picture up
Oh,
there?
no, good,
I was
good,
just looking
so,
at the yeah.
so I will say that Elizabeth has been working with a town historian. This picture is Route 148. This is on loan.
Beautiful.
Is
Is it written on the back that it's on
He's
loan?
gonna write a
Yeah.
little,
Yeah, we're gonna
on
have a
it.
placard here. It is on loan. And if you notice, we also moved the cabinet out of here. If you go to the front of the town building, artifacts, some tools, are in there. It actually looks, Elizabeth has done a phenomenal job of it.
Very good.
I think Joseph Hutchins with this, he's the pro,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, this is, we've got a lot of good stuff going on. I also, one of the things, Kathy, I do wanna reach out to the schools. I would like that, the art program to come up with photography and artwork based on a Killingworth theme, and have them do some of this work so we can have more artwork in this very stark town hall.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's great. What's the road, you said it earlier, the name of the road where this,
Oh, it's
fence,
taken from Beckwith,
Beckwith,
which is.
so that White House is still here.
Wow.
And look at the trees,
this
look as funky as they do today.
Yeah, right. And this telephone, is that telephone lines up there?
That's what's
Or
curious.
power.
The power.
That's
That-
power.
Because,
That
in
house,
here,
that house actually had a grist mill behind it that was functioning and generated power for that whole area behind it.
This is apparently just a crease in the,
Yeah.
in
There
the,
were-
in the,
There were
Photograph.
three negatives
Here,
that he
too.
spliced together to make that
It's beautiful.
panoramic view,
yeah.
cause they didn't have.
and you
It's
said there
what
was
for you?
power, the grist mill provided power
For, there's a couple of houses, including the Abner Lane house
Okay, so
behind it,
that's-
and another house that were all powered by the grist mill there.
Wow.
they made violin strings, is that what you said?
Yep.
Violin strings.
And that's facing east then? On Beckwith
That-
facing
Here,
east?
that's headed, the road's headed, the house is facing east, yeah.
Right, but.
The road
Where
is-
the road's
the
heading
Road's
west.
heading west towards
The
Madison.
photographer's
Yeah.
heading west, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool.
That's beautiful.
It's nice to have, yeah, it's nice to have it here.
Tom Lentz has a lot he wants to share, and the Historical Society is eager to loan a few things here and there too, so.
Yeah, I mean, I could see artwork all in through here that just depicts the history of Killingworth.
That was,
Once we put a good roof on it.
Yeah.
I'm a
Put
little
some
bit,
pictures up there, just put them up there.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Can she,
I'll wait.
can
I'll
she have a
wait
moment
till-
to
I
speak?
can wait till you adjourn,
No,
but.
go ahead.
I'm a little out of it, but KES fourth graders used to do, a third grader used to do a history of Killingworth project at the end of the year, and posters and everything, they're beautiful.
They don't do it
They
anymore.
don't do it anymore?
My son did it, I think it was his
Mm.
second or third year, and they stopped doing it because a parent, cause by the time my son, who's now 16, was in third grade, they had stopped doing it, so it was that like 7 or 8 years ago. When I asked Mr. Cusson, who was a teacher then in third grade, why aren't they doing it? I took a day off so I could run
That's
my son around.
beautiful,
I
yeah.
love doing it with my
Yeah.
son, I learned more about the town. But the teacher said that several parents had complained about having to do it. So it was discontinued.
But I
And they
just-
would do fabulously, artwork, you
Beautiful,
could- yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine
Yeah.
the high school photography,
Yeah.
club
Great.
taking
at the
photographs of town?
They were at the artisan fair, the HK artists, they had a booth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so why don't we have more,
Yeah.
more photos?
There used to be, I don't know if they're still there, but there used to be a bunch of school pictures that was in that front hallway of KES. I don't know if they're still there or not,
On the wall there.
but there's a picture in there of, my mother's in the picture, when she went to the Lane School, which was the former VFW hall.
Oh, wow.
And in the background on the wall is a picture, a drawing that was drawn by the kids in that schoolhouse that they did, they did a map of the town of Killingworth. And
It's captured in the photograph?
it's in the photograph. It's in the
Oh,
photograph,
there's
in the
two
back wall.
random pictures at the pantry, just like against a wall. I might bring them over to you.
Oh, I saw
I
that,
think
there's
they're
the
just
one
like-
of, yeah,
I think
they,
they've just been taken off and they're sitting in a corner. I don't know
I mean,
if they're
they-
anything that's of value, but they're certainly.
From when it was the library, maybe.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I'm gonna get them next time.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we're
so
just
thank
trying,
you.
we're
Anyway,
trying to
Elizabeth,
spruce it up.
thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
It's a
fabulous.
terrific idea. It's history, it's
Everyone's
educating all
excited
this.
about it. so-
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Really well
Yeah,
done.
and stop on your way, and instead of coming out the back, just go into the front and you'll see where the artifacts are, although Michelle Noon did say, next to the tax collector's office, I don't need tools that could hurt me.
Well, Nancy, I'll pass
We
that
are
on
gonna
to
put a lot on it.
the board when I,
Absolutely,
Yeah, to
please do.
Jeff.
I mean, I do plan on having a meeting with Jeff, but I think that would be way
I'll bring them
cool.
all.
8:18.
Ready for the next
Adjourn.
meeting as.
Adjourn. Meeting